This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good morning, everyone. I hope you are as excited as I am. I'm at the hyena den, and I was hoping that they'd be out, but apparently not just yet. But we're going to come back and check it out, and we are, at least for now, going to have a look at their wonderful den site. And alas, they are not out, but we have lots and lots of plans for the day here on Djuma Game Reserve in the Sabi Sands. We're going to check out the den. We're going to look out for lots of predators, elephants, everything the bush has to offer. So won't you jump on board for your live safari through the African bush? Welcome, welcome everyone. It's a wonderful, sunny, beautiful, and just a little bit chilly morning here on Djuma Game Reserve. I'm just turning around because, like we said, there's nobody at the den, but the cubs are obviously inside, so we don't want to hang around because sometimes we can draw them out. So we're going to have a bit of a rolling start while I welcome you aboard for your live safari and tell you that it's your safari. So please do ask us your questions, give us your comments using the hashtag WildEarth at FC on the YouTube chat stream. Or, of course, you can go onto our website and register and use our question box. Whatever you like, we would love to hear from you. It's about 18 degrees Celsius, 64 degrees Fahrenheit. And I must say it's a rather marvelous morning. I've got a spring in my step. I've had a spring in my step before. I've not even had a cup of coffee. And I'm still very, very excited. Well, I did have one, but I was excited before that. See, that's how excited I am. My name is Trishala. I even forgot about that. And I've got Marcel on camera with me this morning. And we're going to look for all sorts of things. I was really, really hoping that the hyenas would be up and about, but we do have an emerald spotted wood dove that's making its way on the road. Look at that. What a gorgeous dove. When they're in the sun, you can really see the emerald spots. But in the shade, they just look like dark patches on the wings. There's something very exciting in the air this morning. Just why I think I'm so excited, for lack of a better term. I think we may get some spotted cats. And I'm even going to say maybe an elephant. It's been such a long time since we've seen an elephant. Here in Djuma, you've been having good luck on the other sites, seeing elephants. So I think we've definitely got to find some. So we'll be looking out for tracks and all sorts. There've been leopard tracks around. And speaking of leopard tracks, let's go over to Tristan to say good morning.
Well, hopefully you do find elephants. Trish and I actually were talking about it this morning, that there's been a severe lack of them, and both of us are looking forward to finding them. But as you can see, we're kind of peering out over the sunrise at the moment, not for the sunrise particularly, but because we actually have tracks in the road, which I will show you shortly. But before we do all of that, I suppose I should tell you who I am, because otherwise I'm just a voice kind of on the other side of the world. My name is Tristan. On camera I've got Khat this morning, and like I say, we do have tracks for a leopard, but they're interesting tracks because they're fairly large, but not the size of a big dominant male leopard. So if you have a look, let me not get my shadow in the way. Here is a track over here. And the size of it is, you've got to kind of front foot there, and then the back foot is directly registered over the top of it, so you can just make out the sort of roundness of the front pad. But this size foot like this is slightly larger than what we would see from a female leopard, but not big enough to be one of our big boys. So I expect this to be a young male leopard that's walking around here, which is interesting because, well, we don't really have any young male leopards in this area at the moment, except for a young male that I saw last week, which we have no ID for. We don't know where it's come from. No one actually, everyone I've spoken to doesn't know who this cat is. And it's a young, very, very shy male. We saw him at night only because he had a carcass that was stolen by hyenas. And I wonder if it's not him. He was kind of north of where we are now, but young males will roam quite a bit. And so maybe, just maybe, it's him. There was a skittish leopard seen now not too far from here that ran away, so could very well be his tracks. There's also a female track that comes into the area, so I'm just going to double check. If these tracks go up to that area, then we know it's definitely him. But I'd be surprised if he was this far south, because that little leopard is still small. He's only probably 15, 16 months, tiny still. But like I say, very, very shy. He just kind of ducks and sort of runs away during the day, but at night he was okay. We were able to get fairly kind of close to him, and it took a long, long time to do it. We sat for about an hour in the rain until we were able to eventually get close enough that he didn't kind of, well, they could see him, one, and then he settled down and he lay on a little log for a while, and we got to watch him, which was really, really cool. It's always nice when you get new leopards in the area, but it's a lot of work. You got to kind of be very patient with them. It's a completely different approach to them as it would be to one of our relaxed leopards. There you've got to kind of sit long distances, and when I say a long distance, hypothetically you would be sitting 50, 60 meters from that cat, waiting for it just to get used to your presence, and then a little bit closer, and eventually you can start to relax them and habituate them by doing that. Anyway, we're going to just quickly check and see. In the meantime, though, let's send you across to Tessa so she can say good morning.
Good morning, everybody, and a nice fresh welcome to and beyond Ngala. I am currently hot on the tracks of the pack of wild dogs from yesterday, that and beyond Ngala pack of 21 with all of the pups. And we're actually following these tracks. It looks like they're going in the direction of the dam. So my name is Tessa. I'm going to be your guide on safari for this morning. Behind the camera we have BK this morning. And the plan for today is, while it's nice and cool, we're going to try and find those wild dogs and see if we can get them hunting and playing. So this particular area that we're in is in the east of and beyond Ngala. It is the direction we thought they were coming in last night, and I actually went straight to the boundary last night and had a look there, went back there this morning, and there were tracks of them luckily coming in again. So they must have skirted around the boundary and come back towards the dam. And because there's so many mouths to feed, I'm really, really hoping that we catch them in action this morning. It is nice and cool. It's overcast, a few patches of blue sky. And it's really, really fresh this morning. We've seen a lot of impalas, a lot of general game around. So I think it's going to be a good morning for us. I've got that lucky feeling. So I haven't smelt them yet. I think we're probably a little bit behind the pack at the moment. But there are tracks of them and tracks of the hyenas. So I'm going to carry on down here. The dam is just ahead of me. I'm going to go check there, and I'm going to send you over to David and beyond Pinda with some mating tortoises.
Morning, everybody, from a bit of an overcast Pinda. We have come around the corner and found these two leopard tortoises who are mating. We often find when it's rainy like this, they come out and are more active, but very special to see two tortoises of quite significant age. Actually, these tortoises are probably quite old already. They're quite large, mating. But like I said, welcome to Pinda. My name's Devon. Behind the camera we've got Glenn, and we're going to be driving around the south of the reserve this morning, having a look for any cats and maybe any animals around the watering holes and that are making use of this little bit of light rain that we've got here this morning. These are two leopard tortoises that we can see here. We get two species of tortoise at Phinda. They are the leopard tortoise and a bull-hinged tortoise. Now the difference is, it's quite hard to see from this position, but the bull-hinged tortoises have got a crack in the back of their skull, an actual hinge, and it looks a bit like they've got a big gash on their shell. And they're quite significantly smaller. The male tortoise here is quite a bit smaller. Yes, Tom, it's a very funny look. He's got his mouth open and gasping a little bit. I don't know if you noticed the female slowly starting to move and shuffle a little bit there as well. So I think she might start moving off now. When we came around the corner, we disturbed them. They were actually in the road. And now they walked off into the bush a little bit and have carried on with their business. Getting a bit of a side profile here now. You can see the beautiful markings on these tortoises' shells. Really, really beautiful animals. And you look at that skin on their head, you can really see how prehistoric they look. And now that they're moving, you can notice as well how much bigger the female is than the male. So hopefully they'll come across to the left here and give us a nice view out in the open. Here we go. He's walking behind her, and I mean you can still see her very clearly from even with him in between us. So he's much bigger. They get their name from those leopard-like markings that they've got on their shells or their shoots, the little angular pieces of shell that they have for protection. And I don't know if you noticed earlier as well, on the front of their legs, it's quite scaly and yeah, I mean, they're not moving very quickly at the moment, but that's about as fast as they go. And all of that just for extra protection. If anything comes to get them or tries to eat them or bite them, they just retract into their shell. Their legs go in the back and their head and front legs go in the front. And they, for the most part, are extremely successful at protecting themselves that way. So I think they're going to carry on with their business. He's following after her, but they're going behind a couple bushes now, so we're going to leave them to it. We're going to keep on driving and see what's at the next watering hole.
So I'm sitting at Clara Dam here at and beyond Ngala, and I came here looking for the pack of wild dogs. They don't seem to be here, but there are such beautiful noises around at the moment, all the birds calling, and these hippos that are blowing some bubbles in the water. Have a listen to all of the beautiful sounds around us. There are some absolutely beautiful bird calls today. There's some helmeted guinea fowls, some red-billed buffalo weavers, Egyptian geese, crested francolins. All sorts of lovely sounds at the moment. Definitely going to sit here for a while longer and take it in this morning.
Watering holes are always a good idea. Always a good idea. We have picked up some tracks, so obviously we've left the hyena den because there are no adults around, which is a shame because I really wanted to spend some time with them. And I must also tell you that last night I swung past the hyena den and the cubs were out, but the adults were not, so they're definitely there. But I think all the hyenas were more focused on what scraps they could have picked up on quarantine from the wild dogs last night. Speaking of the wild dogs, there is in Buffelshoek, or the last report was that they were in Buffelshoek. This is such a productive part of the day that it's when you want to kind of take it very slow and then also be really, really fast in different times, because you need to make sure that you're having a good look at tracks, because some tracks can be very, very fresh. Also want to make sure that if you hear any sounds, if you hear sawing, if you hear alarm calls, you want to move very quickly. So it's quite an exciting, very, very exciting part of the day in the bush. You'd like to know if wild dogs have a very distinct or strong scent. They do have a distinct scent. I wouldn't call it strong. It's not offensive at all. But they do have a distinct scent. It kind of, to me at least, because it's also quite a subjective thing, to me it smells a little bit like a bull in must, an elephant bull in must. It's got this musty kind of smell, but it's far less pungent. Now I've got to describe what a bull in must smells like. It's not a, I don't think it's a bad smell, but it's a very musky smell. If you've ever smelled, that musk smell, like musky perfumes and stuff like that, that's very particular smell. It smells quite like that, but with an elephant bull it's mixed with the smell of like ammonia and things like that. Or at least it smells like that, and that makes sense because they're always dribbling urine. I find that hyenas smell more like a wet domestic dog than wild dogs do. Lots of birds on the road here, but nobody's alarming. But we're going to get up to the junction now where there's always a good set of tracks for us to follow. So I'm going to go do that. Hopefully it will come up with something soon.
So we are sitting here at Clara Dam at Anbiondongala. And the hippos have actually been quite active this morning while we've been here. There are 2 calves in this pod and they've been jumping around and playing with each other a bit, so I really hope we get to see that again. There you can see them playing a little bit. They're biting each other. See there? So these calves were born a little while ago. I think it was around the beginning of the year, actually. They're actually still quite young. They can't hold their breath for as long as mom and dad can. And so they come up a bit more regularly. But we've got some stunning birds around this morning as well. We've been listening to the woodland kingfisher, the red-billed buffalo weaver, southern masked weavers. There's even a grey-headed bushrike calling. Crested francolins, grey go-away bird as well. So we've got some really, really stunning birds out here this morning. We were actually hoping that the wild dogs would be around, but we are going to keep looking for them. But for now, there's just so much beautiful noise going on here. The hippos playing. There were 2 hyenas that came down to the dam. I don't think they've gone far. So I think what we're actually going to do is sit here and just kind of take it all in. There's another hyena coming down at the back of the dam now. So I think this is one of the clans that we have in the east. We have a lot of different clans of hyenas here at and beyond Ngala. And they are quite big. And I think they're also smelling those wild dogs. And that's why they're coming down to check if maybe the wild dogs are here. So it's interesting, they're definitely not coming down here for water because not one of them has actually come to the water's edge and had a drink. They've skirted around the northern end, so the top end of the dam, and then from there started moving straight east again to the last place that we had the tracks of the wild dogs. So they're definitely smelling them. I agree with Trishala, the smell of wild dogs is very unique, but we haven't had a chance to smell them this morning. Ariane, yes, the hippos are adorable. Hippo calves are one of my favorites in terms of the babies of the bush. They are so playful, and I love it as well. When they get a bit tired and need to rest, they'll actually climb up onto their mums' backs and sleep out in the sun while mom is underwater. But those two are very playful this morning. Kenzie, yes, hippos can see underwater. They actually have very interesting adaptations for underwater. So they can close their nostrils and their ears to stop water from going in. But they can see underwater. They can keep their eyes open. And what they actually do is they don't swim underwater. They're actually walking along the bottom. And as they do it, they've got their ear holes closed. They've closed their nostrils. And they're walking or running along the bottom. So they're actually not the best swimmers. But yes, they can certainly see underwater. They've got some really, really special adaptations in terms of mammals for their unique lifestyle. I love that sound as they come up and blow out air. Daniel, hippos can get quite big. The males will get to around 3.5 tons. Females a little bit less. And in terms of height, they can get incredibly tall. So if I was to stand next to a hippo, I'm about 1.73 meters tall. If I was to stand next to a hippo, it would still be taller than me. So they are quite long, they're quite tall, and incredibly heavy. Even if they were to stand next to a vehicle like the Land Cruiser that I'm on at the moment, it would actually be taller. What I've always thought is impressive is to put it into a size perspective. Hippos are so big that when they open their mouths, if you took a big watermelon you could probably fit it in the back of their mouth without it touching the sides. It's unbelievable. They are really, really big, and I think people don't really realize it because they're underwater so much. But they are absolutely massive. They're as big as a white rhino. If you were to consider and compare the sizes, they're about the same size as a white rhino. We've actually got one coming closer to us here, having a look and shaking its ears at us. Walter, hippos can be aggressive for quite a few reasons, but the main one is that they feel incredibly threatened when they're out of water. They need to be... I think he heard your question. So they can be incredibly aggressive when they're out of water in particular. That's when they're more aggressive. And that's because they would feel threatened if they aren't in the safety of the water, not just because they know the predators can't really get into the water, but also because they themselves feel more vulnerable on land. They're more susceptible to dehydration. They don't have as many escape routes because when they're in the water, they can just go underwater. And so if you did encounter a hippo on land, that would be when they're most aggressive, particularly if you are between them in the water or possibly around a mother and calf. In the water, they would be aggressive because they are so territorial. They're very protective of their little water holes, and they can actually kill each other over the water holes. And so sometimes they can be quite aggressive when they're in the water as well. But for them, it's just a case of defending themselves if they feel threatened. They're not out to kill anyone. They don't have this grudge against anybody. They purely feel more threatened when they're out of water, and so... I love that sound. So they might be more aggressive than other animals. Lioness lover, absolutely. Hippos will mate in the water, and interestingly enough, they actually also give birth in the water. Not so deep that the baby will sink to the bottom and not be able to breathe, but they'll give birth on the edges of the water where the baby would be able to stand with its head out of the water as it is born. But yes, they certainly do mate in the water. They pretty much do everything in the water, actually, except feeding they'll do majority. On land and the occasional sunbathing as well. That's a really good question. I think a lot of people wouldn't know whether or not hippos do majority of their bodily functions and lifestyle functions in the water. They'll even fight in the water. I've only ever seen hippos fighting out of water once, when they're chasing each other out of the water hole. The rest of the time they'll fight in the water until one gives up. So I actually distinctly remember. I think he knows the story I'm about to tell because it was actually this part of hippos at this dam. When this dam started really drying up in the drought, sometimes the water was so shallow that the hippos couldn't completely submerge themselves. And so what happened was the females and the calves moved. We don't know where they went. They might have walked 20 or 30 kilometers to find a new water source. But the dominant male, being protective, will have stayed here. And so what he did was he would actually lie flat on his stomach in the mud. And when he needed to submerge his back to stop himself from getting sunburn and from dehydrating, he would actually roll over onto his back and have all four of his feet sticking out of the water. And you see these 4 hippo feet sticking out. It looked so comical. It was amazing. But you can imagine how he must have been between a rock and a hard place there, because he wants to keep this water hole for himself, but he doesn't know how much longer he could have stayed, because he needs water to survive. These calves are really having fun this morning. They're chasing each other around. It's actually unbelievable. Hippos have a very unique acid in their bodies called hipposudoric acid. And that's actually what's helped these calves get to this point, because it protects them from all of the bacteria in the water. And it helps them fight against all of the disease that could be carried in the water from all the different animals coming in and out. It also helps them with producing that gel substance that hardens on their skin as like a form of sunblock. It's got a reddish color. It's actually also found in hippos' milk, so when these little ones were suckling, they would have had a slightly pink milk that they were drinking. Kelly, so majority of hippos will have slightly lighter pink colored eyes or around the eyelids as well as on the ears. And they'll have it as well around their rump area, sometimes underneath the stomach a little bit. And that's just their normal coloration. It possibly has to do with the fact that they want to reflect light a bit more. So they've got the dark skin on the rest of the body, which might absorb some heat, absorb some light. Around the sensitive areas, they might want to reflect it a bit more, so that they are not as susceptible to sunburn in the very sensitive areas like around the eye. It's like us, the most sensitive skin and the thinnest skin on our bodies is around our eyes. And so that's an area that they want to protect. Probably also actually helps them see each other. That little bit of pink really does stand out. So I'm going to sit here for a little while longer and just see if anything else comes down to the watering hole. Hopefully we can find the wild dogs for you this morning and get you some action around this dam.
Have you been watching Wild Earth and dreamt of being right there on safari with one of the guides? Well, now you can. Wild Earth is offering you a chance to buy a ticket to dream. You or a friend can hop on board a live Wild Earth show and join our guide on safari. The ticket is redeemable at any of our locations, anytime in the future. Only a limited number of tickets are available, so don't wait. Get your ticket now and start dreaming. Terms and conditions apply.
My name is Lauren and I'm currently working in Djuma Private Game Reserve here in South Africa. I love answering your questions during the live safaris. It's my favorite part. It feels like you're on the vehicle with me and I'm able to teach you exactly what you want to know. If you want to ask a question on Wild Earth, then you need to register on our website. Once registered, you must go to the live safari page and ask your question below the live feed. Welcome to my car. This is Wendy, and she's my favorite. She would love to have your name attached to her, so you can be with her every single time she goes on a safari here in Djuma. If you become a Wild Earth Explorer, you will have the opportunity to buy an engraved tag, which we will attach to her. We will make sure to send you a digital picture to show you exactly where you are sitting on her. You will have front row seat in every single sighting.
We've seen these ellies really chase wild dogs before. Let's get into spot. There we go, there it comes. Look at that, isn't that amazing?
Expect the unexpected here on Wild Earth daily.
Well, while Trish goes off to Galago Pan, we're slowly bumbling southwards. Now, I do need to correct myself because we were saying that track looked like a young male leopard, but there was something about it that just didn't fit. The size and shape was just weird and kind of was confusing me a little bit because it was not really a female, not really a male, and obviously you get varying sizes. It just didn't seem right. But luckily, we went back and double-checked it. It's a track for actually what I think is the Shimungwe lioness and the cub, because we eventually found a lioness track and the two tracks walking together. So I think it's the lioness and the cub, and they've been all over quarantine everywhere. Guys have got tracks going up into Buffelshoek, so we're not going to carry on following those. But at least we kind of know what's happening with that, because I was very confused for a second, because the track itself was larger than what could have been for that young male leopard that we saw last week, and what I think is the same one that was seen this morning. It would have been too big for that, but it wasn't quite big enough to be one of our big adult boys. So I was kind of thinking maybe there's a new male, but it's definitely for the lioness and the cub. The way we found the tracks eventually, where you could see the lioness is walking and then the cub walks, and the actual back pad of the cub on a young male leopard would be very rounded on that back pad. So you would have a situation where essentially you would have, if you can imagine, the kind of toes in front here and the pads coming around, they would have that effect, whereas this track was having that effect, which is a very, sorry, my cap's in the way, which is a very common sign of lions. They have a lot more angular back pad, particularly in lionesses, which both of those are. And so I'm pretty sure that it's that. It's just that where we saw that track initially, the lioness had cut off onto the other road, so that's why we kind of didn't put two and two together. But anyway, at least we've solved that. Interestingly though, she came all the way from the south, so she must have been moving around kind of on Arathusa and then came up through, and generally she's going to go back towards the Manyeleti or towards Simambili. She's kind of just been hanging around that little corner for quite some time, and has been taking it pretty easy there, and it's probably the best place for her to be, given that there's not a lot of lions moving around in that section at the moment. The Nkuhumas are all to kind of south, Talamati's to the north and east, and so this little corner around Gari Gate is not really being utilized by any other lion, so it's the perfect place for a lioness and her little one to kind of stay in, and for her to kind of raise that cub.
So this may look like a pile of nothing, but these are two giant African land snails that are mating. It's quite a strange thing. In fact, I will not be disturbing them at all. But I want to point out a few features to you, so I'm just going to jump out and get a little pointer. So, firstly, giant African land snails are here we go. Excuse my head. They're hermaphrodites, so let me try not to cast a shadow. There we go. They're hermaphrodites, so what we have here are both the shells, and that's the fleshy bit, the foot, and that's the other foot that's now sucked and attached to the shell there. And this thing here, can you see there's a line that's connecting basically their heads together? That there is called a love dart, which is a very romantic term, obviously. And that, what is happening, they're both hermaphroditic, so they're both male, they have both male and female gametes. So at the moment, in that tube, right now, as we are watching it, they are exchanging those gametes. So some are exchanging eggs, some are exchanging sperm. All of that is happening so that each has a store of both eggs and sperm, so that they can fertilize their own eggs or the eggs that they would have picked up from somebody else at any time in the future. So right now, there may not be any fertilization going on. Right now, there's an exchange going on. I'm just going to step back because I can see some movement, and I don't want to be in their way when they decide to let go of each other. It's such a peculiar thing to see, and I know that from your angle, it's not very easy to see. So they're exchanging that genetic material. And that's very important. Sorry. That's very important because as a giant African land snail that moves very, very slowly, it's difficult to find a partner. It's not like you can rush over to your partner when you find them, right? If you see them in the distance or you smell them, you can't rush over. They have no time to play a mating game or a ritual or dance or anything like that. And that's why being a hermaphrodite is beneficial to them. That means that when I do come up against somebody else, no matter what sex they are, I will be able to benefit from seeing them from a reproductive perspective. Because you imagine if you were a giant African land snail and you haven't mated yet, and then you finally see one, so you rush over at your steady, slow snail speed, only to find out that it's another male and you're a male. That could mean a very quick end for a slow species like this. So they've found a niche of being hermaphroditic that allows them to reproduce successfully, even though it may mean that they do not have a defined sex. So they'll be able to store the sperm and eggs and then use them in the future to internally reproduce. This is a very, very cool thing. And something that you don't get to see very often. This is the second time I've seen it. Tato, you'd like to know how much I think the snails weigh? I know they can get to about 20 centimeters or so. Some of them even get larger. Some people say that they'll get up to 40 centimeters. Can't say I've seen one like that myself. But as for the weight of them, I would say they're not more than 100 grams. Growing up in South Africa, you'd be familiar with picking them up because they're quite an invasive species. So you see them all over gardens and things like that. And I've picked them up as a child many, many, many times. And they've got a very robust shell that adds quite a bit of weight as well. But their foot is very, very fleshy. And considering that they're a snail, I think they're pretty heavy. Sir 50, you'd like to know how long this whole interaction would last, this exchange of gametes? I have sat with them doing it for at least 40 minutes. But I was not there when they started, but I saw them release. So at least 40 minutes in my experience of watching them. It's a very vulnerable position to be in, so that extended period of time is actually very risky. I mean, at the moment, they're smack bang in the middle of the road. One of the feet are upturned, and a ground hornbill can come through here and have the snack of its life. Marianne, you'd like to know how many offspring they can have at a time. Their clutches remarkably, can be up to 200. So that is huge. And they can lay many clutches in a year. Maybe even 4 or 5 clutches in a year. So that's the possibility of 1,000 little snails that they can have in a year. Obviously, not everybody survives, so you have to think about that. Also, not everybody hatches. They do have a high hatching rate, though. This is a strategy that obviously works well for them because they're invasive and there's large numbers of them. Glasser, you'd like to know if you can eat these snails? I'm not sure. I'm sure it is possible to eat them. There's nothing that is poisonous, that is any type of material that they have acquired by what they're eating that'll cause you harm. And there's certainly no venom. But whether it's going to be escargot or not, that is a separate question. I would say not. I don't know of anybody I know that's eaten them, but in rural areas in South Africa, perhaps they have. But also the shell is very high in heavy metals, so I'm not sure if there'll be some leaching of heavy metals into the flesh, and that could cause some problems. Also, I think if people were readily eating these guys, there wouldn't be such pests all around the world, actually. This is a very, very interesting find. I might have to do a good duty and see if I can gently move them from the road. But, well, we'll see. Or I'll just call it in. I'm going to send you over to Tessa in the meantime while I wrap up here.
Welcome back to And Beyond Ngala, everybody. One of the other rangers found the pack of wild dogs in the riverbed coming towards where we are now. So I'm actually just driving down here having a look. They've come up onto this bank, and so I'm trying to find them again. It is that pack of 21 wild dogs, the pack that we were with yesterday and looking for at the dam this morning. The dam is just up to my northeast at the moment, so we're not far from there at all. So now it's just about driving slowly and hoping that they pop out onto this road, or I can smell them or find their tracks crossing here. So it is the perfect time for this pack of wild dogs to be hunting and moving around. And especially here because we're actually very, very close to a clearing called Sable Clearing. So I think this is where they're going. There's 2 pan systems along here. Maybe they're looking for some water as well as some food. This is where the impalas like to sleep at night. So this road is called Power Lines for obvious reasons. It's not a road we get to drive very often. We only drive here when there is a sighting. And I'm really, really, really hoping that I find these wild dogs at this pan that we're about to get to. So I always loved spending time with this particular pack of wild dogs because they've always been the pack that dens. Tristan, wild dogs smell, I love the smell. They smell a bit like a mix of wet dog and urine, if I can put it that way, but it's not, like Trishala said earlier, it's not an offensive smell. It's actually quite a a nice smell. It's not a bad urine smell. I think that's because we associate it with wild dogs. But yes, it's almost like a mix of when you wet a dog that has very thick fur, that very wet bathing a dog smell mixed with the smell of urine, and that's because they often urinate on each other. And I absolutely love the smell. You'll actually, I think, hear most rangers and guides saying that when they get that smell, that they really, really, really just love it. It drives people absolutely crazy because we get all excited. Okay, so I was hoping they'd be at this pan. They're not. I'm going to go to the other pan and hopefully they're there. I don't think they've gone too far because they tend to zigzag. So I think they will be coming back towards this area. But I really hope that one day you get to smell a wild dog for yourself, Tristan. It's a really, really beautiful smell. Miley, that is a fantastic question. How large is a wild dog's territory? So it actually depends on the size of the pack. The Ngala pack, the one that we are looking for this morning, their territory is actually majority of and beyond Ngala. So I would say the territory of the Ngala pack is at least maybe 7,000 or 8,000 hectares when they're moving around a lot and have a lot of mouths to feed. And that's a pretty big area. Ngala itself and beyond Ngala is 15,000 hectares, just about. It's 14,700, which is 36,000 acres. And I would say at least a third to a half of that is covered by the Ngala pack. But it would depend. If it's a smaller pack, they'd need a smaller territory. It also depends on where they're denning and when they're denning. So if it's the breeding season, their territory actually gets smaller, interestingly enough, because they'll choose a den site like a termite mound in the middle of a territory and then only operate around that, so they're not going too far from the pups. But now that the pups are grown and following them on hunts, they can move whenever they want, wherever they want, and they don't have to stick with it. So to give you an example, the territories are actually more of like a home range. They overlap with other packs. We had 2 different packs of wild dogs on the property the last 2 days in the same areas. So they're not strict like the lions and the leopards that will stick to their territory only. They do branch out. They have massive distributions. There was actually a pack of wild dogs that was tracked using their GPS collars from KZN, KwaZulu-Natal in South Africa, all the way up to Botswana, across through the communities, which is crazy, and then all the way back again. So it's quite difficult to keep a pack of wild dogs in, and they will move wherever they find food. If they do find a territory that they really find everything that they need, then they will stick within that territory. But if they need to move, they will move quite gladly. Let's actually, I want to go down and check the other pan system. Nina, no, those packs actually would not get along with each other particularly well. They will fight each other, and they have been known to actually kill each other if 2 packs meet. I've actually just noticed there's 2 spotted hyenas coming down the power lines towards us, and I think they're also following the pack of wild dogs. So that's a really good sign. But yes, wild dog packs are quite territorial, and they will protect their pack against other packs. So this clearing is a really, really fantastic place for them to be this morning. There's little pan systems. It's nice and open so they can build up speed when they're hunting and keep it going, that stamina. So I have still got my radio on, so if you do hear any radio communication, it's myself and the other ranger chatting. Detective, I like your name. The largest animal that I personally have seen the wild dogs take down was a sub-adult wildebeest, so a young adult. But it was this pack. It was a very big pack. And at the time, I think they were actually only 19 or 18 dogs. So they can take pretty big prey. I actually once had a sighting when I was doing volunteer work for wild dog monitoring, where they chased an adult nyala into the side of the vehicle and killed it against the side of the vehicle. That was the first ever wild dog kill I'd seen. So it was quite crazy when I think about it that way, but I don't think that happens very often. We were in a very thick area, and I was monitoring one of the packs in KwaZulu-Natal with the wildlife monitoring program. And we could hear the telemetry from the collars, and we didn't quite know where they were. We knew they were close, and they chased this nyala into the side of the vehicle. It's a massive thud. And then the skin popping of that nyala, and just blood and feeding everywhere. It was unbelievable. Still haven't smelt them, so I don't know if they came right through this clearing or if they maybe skirted around it. I feel like my adrenaline is pumping through the roof right now. Okay, so I'm gonna go around and check this next pan that's coming up in front of us, check that road for any tracks that might have crossed east towards our boundary, and hopefully I get to find them for you so you can see the pack of wild dogs this morning.
Well, I hope you do find them, Tessa. I'm sure they're close. If you can smell them, they're generally not far away. Now, we haven't had much luck since you last saw us. I went down towards Twin Dams because yesterday evening I was saying that there was monkeys alarm calling, and when we were on our way home last night, we found tracks for what I think is Sabui or her female cub, Langa, coming north in the Mulawati, but no sign this morning. I went and checked around there. The tracks are not in any way, shape or form fresh. They're just from last night, so it doesn't seem. I think she must have drank at Twin Dams and gone back south again into Little Gowrie. Unfortunately, there's no sign of her on our side. I checked all the northern sides of that. But we do have tracks for what I think is the Talamati Pride. They're moving all over the place on the southern side. So they went into Chitwa, then they came out, and there was tracks on this road, the Cheetah Cut line moving about. And the guys have got tracks to our east as well. So we're just bumbling along, trying to see if maybe we can pick them up. It's been a while since I spent time with the Talamati, so it'd be nice to kind of see them this morning as well. I know a lot of you enjoy that pride, so hopefully we'll find them and we'll be able to go and see how the injured lionesses are doing. There's two that are carrying a few little scars, but the last time I saw them, the scars were the cuts were starting to granulate and starting to heal a little bit, so they should be okay. They don't look too deep or as though they are kind of hampering the way that those lines are moving, so I think it should all be okay for them. So we'll just kind of see how it goes. We'll try and see if we can find them somewhere here. I wonder, I'm still confused as to why that Chimungwe lioness is so far south. Something must have happened for her to have moved all the way down to the southern part of Djuma and then walk back northwards and be on quarantine. Maybe she heard the commotion of the dogs and was hoping to scavenge off them. It does sometimes happen that leopards and lions will follow wild dogs purely based off the fact that they make so much noise and they're so successful in killing that it's often a great way to find food of their own. Hang on a second. There's tracks here for a spotted cat. I saw them quite late. It looks like Tandy and Cub together. If I show you here, I'm going to try and kind of give you a view of the tracks. Let me get out so that I can show you exactly what I'm looking at. But like I say, it looks like it could potentially be two of them. If you have a look here, this is for a female, so that track there is female, but this track here looks a little bit wider. So I'm just trying to see nicely if it's two leopards walking side by side, or if it's just that she stood on the edge of the road and slid a little bit, which is what it looks like actually, and then goes in towards Torchwood. So we'll have to follow these, but these are quite nice. Coming from where we had her last night, she was on Chitwa, and she would have walked just straight up this road, and it looks like she's going to have gone in here. So those are good tracks. They feel pretty good. Often when we've had a bit of rain around and a leopard walks or a lion walks and the track is made, a few days afterwards, because of the moisture in the sand, the edge actually crisps up and it becomes quite hard. And so often you'll see if you walk with really experienced trackers is that they poke the track and they touch it. And the reason why they're doing that is to see if there's any resistance on the track itself, and how fresh it is. These tracks, there's no resistance at all. My finger just goes straight down, so there's any sort of hardness to the track at all. So she must have walked here, I would have kind of early morning. When I say early morning, I mean like 1 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning, somewhere there. But definitely goes in towards Torchwood. So we'll go and scratch around and see. Maybe we'll get lucky and find her. But it's just her track. I thought for a second they were both there, but it's just her. Just double check that she doesn't come back out onto the road. But if she goes in this direction, it goes straight to where she's been keeping her cub for the last few weeks. So I'd imagine that's kind of roughly where she is. Hopefully we'll be able to find her somewhere there. All right, while I follow up on these tracks and figure out where they go, let's send you across to Trish, who I think is also searching, much like us.
There have been lots of tracks all over the place today, which is very, very exciting. It means that animals were walking around and the potential for them to be found is just that much greater. When there aren't very many tracks, you can kind of feel a little bit aimless. You need tracks to give you some direction. Tingana was in Buffelshoek last night, basically a little bit further north than this road, so that's why I'm checking this road very carefully for tracks, but I'm seeing none so far. He could potentially still be in Buffelshoek, but we've got to wait our turn to get in. My plan is to get into Buffelshoek today, but we'll go to Buffelshoek Dam and wait for a little bit. I also saw a really cool rock monitor yesterday after drive in the morning on Buffelshoek cut line. It's our northern boundary of Juba. Hopefully it'll be out basking at the moment. It was humongous. It was lovely, really, really lovely. Tyler, you'd like to know what the easiest of the animals to track is? Of the predators, I think lions are the easiest to track because they're in a pride, so there's lots of tracks. With the leopard, there's one leopard walking, and if the substate changes, or if you look in front of us, you can see there's part of the road on the left that's sandy, right? And if the leopard's walking on the right where it's rocky or where the surface is hard, then I'll lose the tracks in that patch. And then I may not find them depending on whether it goes off into the block to the east or to the right there. But with the pride of lions, they're going to walk through, and one of them is still going to stand in that sandy, but we'll be able to see a track properly and completely and still be able to follow. So that's always makes it easier for me, in that there's lots of movement and lots of individuals that are walking. So that's a very easy way for me. And then also the tracks are very, very big, so it's difficult to miss lion tracks. And if some individuals go off the road and into the block where I'm not able to track them, others will stay on the road. You can see very easily where somebody sat down, when cubs are playing, when they're running, if there's tracks of their prey item as well amongst them, and you get a lot of clues. Apart from that, they're not going to move a lot during the day. So if I pick up tracks for them in the morning, by 9 o'clock, they're unlikely to move more. Paul, you'd like to know if I can tell the age of an animal by the size of its tracks. Somewhat. I can tell a leopard cub from an adult, but then there's a confusing period where the leopards, if it's a male leopard, the cub track looks the same size as the female's track. But you see, it's quite easy to tell cub tracks from adult tracks, except for that period where a male leopard cub, for example, Tanti's cub at the moment, his tracks are about the same size as hers. It's got big feet now, big paws. So if he's walking around, you may mistake it for Tanti's tracks. And there's also, if you see the right-aged lion track, like a cub that's 6 months old, it may look like a male leopard track. But then you've got to look for the vacant space between the toes, the space where the sand would pop out, and if it tends to be wider, that space tends to be wider for a cub than for an adult. So then I'd be able to say, okay, actually I'm looking at a lion cub's track and not a male leopard track. It's quite a nuanced thing, lots of little tiny things that you'd look for. Sometimes I feel like the toes on a leopard track is more dainty than a cub track, a lion cub track. So there's a whole lot of those things, and the more you track and the more you look at tracks, especially when we have the animals with us and they go through a sandy part in the road, I love to just have a look at their tracks. So you know, right now, this leopard, Hukumuri has made that track, Tingana has made that track. Are there subtle differences in their tracks? Are there the type of differences that I can remember? Or could it just be a product of where they're stepping and how they're stepping? I'm going to go through this dip. So I'm just going to be quiet in case you lose me briefly. Dam now, and we'll see what's happening on that side, and if I manage to find that rock monitor on the way there, I'll definitely show you.
So I've actually just had that same spotted hyena covered in blood come running across the road in front of the vehicle again towards the eastern boundary. So I'm thinking not only have the wild dogs already killed something because that hyena's got so much blood on her face, but that they're in here somewhere on my right-hand side. So what I'm actually going to do, I'm going to take this road that goes to the right. It's on the southern bank of the Timbavati riverbed, and it goes past a clearing called Maputo Clearings. And I'm thinking that's where the wild dogs are. The next road over to my east, to my right-hand side, is actually our eastern boundary with the self-drive section of Kruger Park. So we are very, very close to where the wild dogs might cross out for the day. And so myself and the other ranger, Trico, are looking around this area, hoping that these wild dogs come up again. We haven't seen any tracks crossing that eastern boundary yet. Trico is there at the moment. And I'm watching for this hyena because she was coming across this way. Imagine how wonderful it would be to go around a corner here and just have the whole pack of wild dogs running towards us. have some impalas. Mosa, yes, they do. Hyenas are actually incredibly good at hunting. And they'll actually hunt here on Ngala. About 70% of their meals are hunted by themselves. Maybe about 30% would actually be scavenged. There's some impalas in the thicket here. I'm just watching them. They look quite relaxed. I don't think the wild dogs have been here. They're actually going down towards that clearing. Okay, no, I don't think they're here. But yes, wild dogs and hyenas both hunt for their food. And in fact, if you have a look at the different ratios or the percentages that lions would hunt compared to hyenas, lions actually scavenge more than hyenas do. Hyenas will hunt around 70% of their food, scavenge maybe 30%. Lions are actually about a 50% hunting and 50% scavenging or stealing from other predators. So they actually hunt a lot more than lions do. I think they just have a bit of a bad reputation, which is a bit incorrect, because they don't actually scavenge altogether that much. They just know that with wild dogs it's worth their time, because the wild dogs are so successful at hunting that it's easier, or you're more likely to manage to scavenge a meal from them than from any of the other predators. The nice thing is it's actually still nice and cold. I was actually considering putting on another jacket just now, which is crazy considering it's summer. But it's good for the wild dogs because it means that they won't stop moving until they know they've eaten enough. And because they zigzag so much, we've got a chance of actually finding them or bumping into their tracks or their scent. And hopefully I can use that to find them. I haven't heard anything yet, so normally what happens is when the wild dogs make a kill, they make that very loud squeaking noise, or they might hoot to find each other if they've been separated during a hunt. I haven't heard any of that yet. I have switched off a few times to have a look. I'm just going to listen to them. So it sounds like he hasn't found any tracks yet on the eastern boundary. He did have a quick glimpse of a leopard now, actually, going across into the Kruger Park side, which is quite exciting. Yesterday and today we've had the wild dogs and the leopards in the same area. Seems that the wild dogs are better at finding leopards than we are at the moment. Which is quite expected, I guess. They've got very good senses. So I am really, really hoping they pop up here. Tabiso, I'm not sure an exact distance of how far you can hear a wild dog squeak. It also depends on the weather. On a hot day, you wouldn't hear it as far as on a cold day, because then the sound travels further with the sound, with the cloud cover, bouncing the sound back. But, I mean, to give you an idea, if we were here and the wild dogs started calling or squeaking from even the next road over, we would definitely hear them. So they are quite loud. It's a very distinct sound. So it's quite hard to miss. Obviously, when we're driving like this, it is a bit more difficult because you've got the sound of the vehicle as well. But in this case, it's because they're so close to the eastern boundary, it's more worthwhile for me to be driving towards that eastern boundary checking rather than just switching off in case they are close to the eastern boundary and about to cross out of the property. But that being said, whenever there is a nice clearing, I usually do stop and listen anyway. Such an exciting sound to hear. Glasser, well wild dogs have fantastic endurance. They have so much stamina. They can keep chasing for incredible distances, over 1 or 2 kilometers. Stand by. So they've got very good stamina. That's actually why they're so good at hunting. And what they actually do is they rely on that endurance to outrun impalas and other animals, because they know that the impalas will, stop from exhaustion at some point, where they can keep trotting or galloping for quite a long time. They can keep that speed up and actually catch up with those impala or whatever it is that they're hunting. I should imagine this morning it's impala. We're in very thick impala territory at the moment. Let me just respond to Trico on the radio. Trico, go ahead. I'm on South River coming towards the eastern boundary. No update yet. Copy that, thank you. Are you going to go back to Pretorius?
Yeah, I left. We're still on the boundary though. Okay, I'm going to go down that side.
Okay, so I'm going to go down and check the boundary towards where Trico saw that leopard. Maybe we'll bump into the wild dogs on that boundary, and I'm going to send you back over to Tswalu at Djuma.
Gotta love those tips. Those tips are great, and that's why all guides work together to kind of figure out, oh, let's exit our property, entering your property. It's magic. Here we're at Buffelshoek Dam in the northeastern corner of Djuma, and we have a saddlebull stork. Such a beautiful bird. Love saddlebull stork, but it's also not the only stork at the dam today. There's also a yellow-billed stork all the way on the other side. They're avoiding each other, it seems. Let's just sit and watch them, because I love to see what they catch. Look at that, with the beak open. They're looking for all sorts of things. Fish, crustaceans, frogs. Almost got something. Look how it uses the foot to shake the top layer of sediment something's burrowed in. You'll see. There, shaking the leg. That's very interesting. It's almost like it's using the wing to help with the light. Because it's always using it in the direction that it's moving in. Look at that. The reflection in the water and the murkiness of the water must be difficult, and there's that there moving in the opposite direction, opposite wings being used. It looks strangely human when it puts its wing out like that. That's amazing. It just reminds you how much information an animal is processing. Thinking about light while it's hunting to shade the water like that. Hammond, you'd like to know if this bird has sensory nerves on its beak? It is very likely to have sensory nerves on its beak, as do most animals having sensory. So a beak is simply fused portions of the mandible. And they have to have sensory nerves on it because they need to be able to feel what they're eating. Next, just like we do, just like cats do, whiskers being an extension of that, they have to be able to feel. And it might be to a lesser extent because that beak is keratinized, but they'll often have little hairs around the beak that'll also exaggerate any tactile sense. But if they couldn't feel anything on their beak, it would kind of be useless. That's what they used to eat. So they have to be able to feel on the beak. Whether that's a tingle, a tickle, a pressure feeling, whatever it is, it's important for them to have some sort of feeling. In fact, any body part that you use to collect, catch, touch, if it has no sensory nerves on it, it's pretty much useless. It looks like a brilliantly coordinated dance, don't you think? What beautiful sounds. JR, you'd like to know if we're going to see any African open bull this season? I haven't seen them on Juma, but remember I've only been here for 2.5 years, so I haven't seen them on Juma. I've seen spoon bulls on Juma. Open bull I haven't seen. They're also not, well, I mean, they're considered near threatened, so we probably won't see them as often. I know that the last 2 seasons at least that I've been here, well, this would be the 3rd season, I haven't seen them. So I can't promise you anything, JR. But I think that would be amazing if we do get to see them. In fact, I hope that we do. That would be a wonderful addition to my bird list for Juma. the yellow bull stork as being far more entertaining than the saddle bull stork. I often find saddle bull storks the most entertaining. Oh, just when I say it, it decides that it also wants to go hunting. But will your dance be as fancy as the yellow bull stork's dance? Little creep just giving us a shout there. Oh, what did you catch? Did you catch something? I love watching storks. Just having a bit of a drink. In a strange way, they remind me of elephants in their very slow, deliberate movements. So careful as they move around. They also look so delicate. Jenna, you'd like to know how tall a saddle bull stork is? Pretty tall, about 1.5 meters. If it's standing up straight, it is so cool to see both the storks here. There's only 2 things that would make Buffelshoek Dam better. Some elephants and hearing some sawing in the background, to which we'll have to rush off to find a leopard. That would be amazing. Khalid, you'd like to know if this is the male or the female? This is the male. You can see the wattles just on his chin or underneath. He's shaking them at the moment. Also, his eye is more browny red and the female's eye is yellow, and obviously no wattles. It's so wonderfully peaceful at Buffelshoek Dam today. The hippos are in the dam, they're just submerged. I've only seen their nostrils come up every now and then. You can hear all the lovely sounds. Such pretty storks. I love them so much. Neither of our storks have been successful while we've been watching them. Both have decided that they're going to groom each other instead. That's a good substitute. When you feel like you are failing, take a break, groom yourself, and try again. There they go, walking along. Well, I hope that I'll have a space to get into Buffelshoek now, and I'll try my hardest to do that. Otherwise, we'll just stick around here.
So I'm down in the Timavati riverbed here at and beyond Ngala, and I'm just listening to the sounds, hoping that I hear that hooting or that squeaking of the pack of wild dogs. But there are such beautiful birds calling at the moment. Have a listen. There's so many birds calling down here this morning. It's actually beautiful just to take in the sounds for a bit. You can hear a black-headed oriole, orange-breasted bush shrike, crested francolins always. So I'm definitely going to sit here for a while longer and just take in the sounds.
I am enjoying the sounds of Juma here as well. I am waiting for the two storks to meet. Back to hunting. Our saddled bull stork has now come towards the one weaver's nest on this side. Grab my binos out and see if I can see the weaver. There's a weaver's nest just to the left. Looks like a village weaver. There we go. There's the weaver's nest just on the left there. There's a tiny little yellow weaver. There we go. Jessica, you'd like to know if they're not scared of crocodiles? Well, in this dam, not. We don't have crocodiles at Buffelshoek Dam, although there have been in the past. Here we have a village weaver. You can tell the difference between a sudden masked weaver and a village weaver, and though they look very similar based on where their nests are. Village weavers will almost always have their nests over water. southern masked weavers not. So there's other large dams around, like Chitwa Dam, where there is the potential for these guys to feel a little unsafe. They're around the dam because of the crocodiles. There's 2 big Nile crocodiles that live there. And I have always wanted to see a croc out of water, making its way from Chitwa to Buffelshoek to Viatella Dam, wherever. I've just always wanted to see that. In fact, that was seen once when I was not here. I was very disappointed. But of course, crocodiles can move between the dams. And there has been at least 2 occasions where a little croc has been in this dam. You can hear pearl-spotted owlet in the background. Really cool. There's those lovely wattles. Every time he shakes his head, it looks like his magnificent earrings are shaking with him. All right, well, now I'm going to move on, and I'm going to send you to Dev. He's got some rhinos.
Welcome back to And Beyond Punda on this slightly overcast rainy morning. We have managed to find 4 white rhino in this open area up in front of us here, and a little interesting scene that's unfolding here. There's, like I said, four rhinos. There's an animal that's lying down on the ground. That is a big female. Just behind her on the right is what I think is a male. We haven't been able to get too much of a good view of him just yet. He's kind of in the background behind some bushes. And then on the left, 2 slightly younger subadult calves. Quite interesting if you look at the color of those calves, quite different from the other 2 adults. And I don't know if you can see at the foot of the one that's standing, and facing left, the ground where we are at the moment is very red, and that's got to do with the chemicals and the minerals that are in the soil in this particular part of the reserve. It's very iron rich, and if you've ever had any piece of metal that's rusted, you'll know that when you get that iron oxide or the water and air combining with iron, it goes that rusted red color. And rhino wallow. So these rhino in the last day or so have been into a mud wallow in this area where the soil is this beautiful red color. Very kind of typical of African soils, I think. One of the beautiful things about some of the geology of South Africa is we've got a fair amount of iron-rich soils, which leaves that beautiful red color. Oh, one of the youngsters is now also laying down. So I think they're just having a nice slow morning here. It was raining a little bit earlier. It's stopped now, and it does look to be clearing up, which is quite exciting for us. While these rhino lie down, they are still very much aware of what's going on. So their ears stay pricked up and move from side to side. You'll see their ears swinging around, listening out for any potential threats. And this area is also, Glenn, if you go a little bit wider, been burnt quite recently. So we can see a lot of these blackened small shrubs. And because it's burnt recently, the grass species that are coming through in this area now will all be pioneer grasses. And what that means for animals that eat grass is the species of grass that will be growing here now in a fresh environment with all of the recycled nutrients and seeds will be grasses that are very sweet. We call them sweet grasses, and they're very palatable, which means animals that eat grass love eating them. So for these white rhino, they are grass eaters. They'll be very happy in this area a little bit later when they decide it's time to get up and start moving, to start munching on these beautiful palatable sweet grasses that we've got in this area. With a little bit of rain as well, it also helps all the new shoots coming through, so I imagine they're going to have some soft, crunchy, tasty grass to eat a little bit later. The reason I said that the one at the back was a bull was because of the size. It did appear to be quite a lot larger than the female. He's just moving across now to the left, coming into view a little bit more. So we might find that he yeah, it's a male, definitely a male if you look at the size difference there in between his legs. So that's actually a very interesting question, E.T., and I'm glad you asked it. So rhino horn have got no medicinal value. They're exactly the same as our fingernails. I think it would be quite nice if we only had to cut our fingers once in our lifetime and they'd never grow back. It would be nice and easy. Might be a bit of a problem if you broke or cracked one of them. But just like our fingernails, rhino horns continually are growing out. So here at Phinda, we dehorn our rhino. Obviously, these rhino don't have horns, and we do that once every 2 years. So we keep them nice and short and close to the base of the nose. And we do that because they do grow out. So it's a continual job to keep cutting them and shortening them down, just like it's a continuous job to trim your fingernails. Yeah, very interesting though. Thanks for that question. It's a good one. These rhino are not looking like they're going to be moving too much in the next little while. Still very sleepy early on. What they might do from here is well, get up and start grazing, and maybe start moving away to a waterhole. They'll slowly move and kind of eat this grass. They won't waste energy moving and not feeding while they go. So they'll get up, start feeding, and probably start making their way towards a waterhole. By that time it might be a little bit warmer, time for a wallow, time for a drink of water. And when they get to the waterhole, there are a number of bird species there. That sounds like Tisha's got something for you at her watering hole.
I was about to leave the dam, and then I saw one of my favorite birds, the pied kingfisher. This is a female. You'll see on her breast she has a single breast band. If she were male, there'd be a double breast band. One slightly thinner. And I love to watch them. They hover before they dive. It's just beautiful. It's done it once. I'm hoping that it'll do it again as soon as it sees something of interest in the water. It's got such specialized eyes as well as brain capacity to be able to strike in the water while accounting for the refraction of the light. So you know when you're in the pool and you're trying to touch your foot and you can't quite touch your foot, that's because the light refracts in different ways in the water, and that distorts your judgment of distance. So they have... Oh, there it goes. Just a little bit of a flutter. Viola, you say a new bird for you? I'll do a little dance, every time someone says it's a new bird for them. Can't see me, but I'm doing a dance, I promise. Even made my own music. Viola, I'm so glad. I love it when someone gets a new bird for their bird list. The pied kingfisher. Look at that. Stunning movement. Down again. Oh, and across. Standing by, Mike. Copy, thank you. I'm at Buffelshoek Dam. I'll make my way soon. That was just a vehicle telling me they're out of Buffelshoek, so I can go into Buffelshoek. And we will after we watch this kingfisher. You have to have incredible focus. Not just mental focus, but focusing lens in your eyes to be able to hunt like this. And it seems that the key to their focus is the fact that they don't move their heads. So if you watch very carefully, any little movement on the branch, their body moves, but their heads do not move. Their heads are always fixed on whatever it is that has gotten their attention. The slight movements, you can see the body is moving just a little bit with the wind and things like that. Once it sets its gaze, the head will not move. The body will compensate for any changes in balance and the wind blowing the branches and things like that. And it kind of looks a bit strange, especially when it's very windy. It's very obvious. And that means they can very much focus and their eyes don't have to be distracted by constant movement because their body is compensating for that. Just do it one more time. Catch something for us. Almost. It was almost. Almost listened to me. Decisions. Don't want to expend energy on something that you don't think you'll be able to catch. Just stunning. What a beautiful time birding we've had here at Buffelshoek Dam. And of course, first for some of you, the pied kingfisher. Well, now I'm going to head into Buffelshoek. Hopefully we'll get lucky there too.
Join our Explorers program so we can keep on sharing nature with the world. For a monthly subscription, you will have the opportunity to win fantastic Wild Earth expeditions, have access to an animal identification app, receive weekly highlights from our shows, and much more. All the money will go to keeping these live safaris on air, which in turn connects a global population with nature.
I am David. I come to you live every day from the Mara Triangle all the way in East Africa. My favorite animal in African wilderness is the lion. Lions, here in the African wilderness, I call them kings of the jungle because in general, they are always up there while they control the savannas of Africa.
Catch up with the guides daily here on Wild Earth. Wild Earth is launching our brand new Explorer program with an opportunity to win a very special Wild Earth expedition. The lucky winner will get a behind-the-scenes Wild Earth experience at the magnificent and beyond Ngala Tainted Safari Camp. The prize includes a 3-night stay for you and a friend with a chance to sleep out in the unique Ngala treehouse. Become a Wild Earth Explorer and stand a chance to win this and many other prizes. Terms and conditions apply.
My name is Ross and I'm a field guide at and beyond Pinde Private Game Reserve. I love getting questions from guests on Wild Earth because I love sharing and learning information about nature with new people, and it also makes me feel like you're all joining me in real life. If you want to ask a question on Wild Earth, then you need to register on our website. Once registered, go to our live safari page and submit your question below our live feed.
Well, talking about watering holes, we've managed to find, well, one of the animals we were looking for at a waterhole. It's an absolutely epic sighting of the entire Talamati pride sprawled across this rock. Unfortunately, we can't get any closer than what we are right now. As we drop down, the signal breaks up a little bit, so we're parked up and away from them a little bit, but it's absolutely beautiful. It's that kind of setting that you always want to see lions on. Is these big rocky outcrops, and Torchwood is just the best place for it. But they have had a big meal. You can see a lot of them are kind of lying on their sides. A lot of them are very full, and so I expect what they've had happened is they've eaten, come and drank, and now they've just found a nice little warm spot to lie down. You can see there comes Limpalot. That's one of the Avoca boys. His mane has gotten massive, but I'm afraid his front right leg is no better than it used to be. He's unfortunately still limping quite heavily, which is a bit of a shame. You'll see he's going to just go straight down, I reckon. There we go. Typical male lion. That's how they often do things. And it's upset that female, so she's going to stand up. Interestingly enough, some of the females don't look like they have eaten. I know that he was mating with one of the females, and maybe it's her because she's definitely the one that's eaten the least, and he keeps following her around. When she walks, he kind of walks. So maybe she's the one that's been in estrus. She's also just going to pee on the rock there. That's not any place to be peeing. That's where you're all sleeping. Cool. She doesn't seem to be worried too much at all. But you'll find that they're going to probably sit here for a little bit until the sun comes out. If the sun comes out, then the whole pride is going to move off of these rocks. It's going to get way too hot on those rocks for them, and they'll find themselves some shade. But I don't expect them to move too far at all. Interestingly enough, though, where we are right now is where Tundi's cub spends most of its time, and you'll find that there's a lot of guinea fowls alarm calling while we've been sitting here, and the lions keep looking. So I just think that Tundi and cub are also around here as well. So there's a lot of cats within this little bit area. Aqua, how many males are in this pride? So in terms of big male, there's only one, which is the Avoca male. Young males, I think there's 3 total. The one is getting massive. He's getting a nice big dark kind of chest. See, this one is drinking out of the rock puddle. Isn't that cool? Amazing. He's got a really nice dark mane on his chest, and then there's another one that hasn't developed a mane nearly as much, and then I think there's a younger one after that. So they'll be fine as long as they're in a little coalition together. They're going to be okay. But there's just something about seeing lions on rocks that is one of those special things. You always kind of drive past these rocks, and I always want to see leopard on these rocks. But I'll take lions, and I've seen dogs on the here too. So we're slowly ticking off the predator list at this stage. Isn't that just amazing? Some of them look so comfortable. There's one on the right there. You can see it's kind of got its head over the precipice of that rock and is kind of lying and looking super comfortable. And the other two on the other side, kind of facing away from us, that are lying heads together, they also look as though they're supremely comfortable at this stage. But they're doing what lions do best after a long night of walking around. They've moved very, very far. So yesterday morning, they were seen inside Buffelshoek. To give you an idea of how far they moved, I'll show you a map now. Because often, with lions, people wonder why we don't find them if we saw them, the day before and how far they can walk. So to give you an idea, yesterday morning, this is where they were seen, here at Insinga. And then from there, they came down kind of like Dollarite, past Buffelshoek Dam. Then they came like this. They went all the way through Djuma during the night, past Twin Dams, came out here, walked along Gari Main, went into Chitwa, towards Chitwa Dam, walked all the way along like this to Rhino Cutline. From Rhino Cutline, they turned back onto Lion Tree Road, back onto Gari Main, up Woodlands, up Pump House, and then bang, was where we are right now, is at Leadwood Dam. So it's a long route that they've walked. I reckon kilometre-wise, you're probably looking at a good maybe 15 kilometers, I would imagine, that they moved from yesterday morning all the way through. So they've covered a huge amount of distance. What's interesting about it is that the Talamati Pride, a year ago, this was where they were hanging around. So they were around kind of this northern side of Buffelshoek and Manyeleti mostly. So you can see how their territory is shifting southwards all the time, and they're starting to come down into Djuma, Torchwood quite a lot, and even as far south as Chitwa. So there's a lot of movement taking place. This all used to be in Kahuma territory, but they seemingly have moved more to the southwest, and we're not seeing as much of them, and that's allowing these Talamatis the chance to come down a little bit and move into this area. It's interesting. It'll be intriguing to see what happens with over the next little bit, but that's kind of the rough gist of what's going on. And then the Torchwood Pride is sort of far to the east and mostly into Kruger at this stage. But isn't that such a special sighting? Like I say, I mean, it's as beautiful as you could get. You've got water, you've got this big, beautiful leadwood in the background, and then lions on the foreground that are decorating the rocks. Now, talking about that leadwood in the background, I actually last week had the most insane sighting here. We were sitting and we managed to spot an Egyptian goose sitting on top of one of those buffalo weaver nests. And we were sitting there, and the guests I had at the time were asking me, about the chicks and eggs, and we're saying that it's amazing that the chicks from there fall to the ground and they don't hurt themselves. And no sooner have we said it that this chick emerges, starts flapping about, and just falls basically in this somersaulting tumble to the ground, hits the grass and kind of bounces and then lands there again. And I'm happy to report that little chick looks like it survived, because on the opposite side of the dam I can see Egyptian goose with a couple of chicks, which would be that exact one. And so it's good to see that it didn't die from its fall. It's a long way up. That's equivalent to a human falling probably 2 to 3 stories, or 2 to 3 flat kind of heights, and onto the ground. So it's amazing that they survived. But there you can see them just fluffing themselves out and making themselves look super cute. So one of those is a little survivor. There was also an egg, unfortunately, that had been pushed out the nest that had landed and was on the ground. So that wouldn't have survived. But these guys look like they're doing fine. There should be 3 of them, though. I saw 3 earlier. Maybe the other one is with its mother or its father. That is also down behind the rock itself. Amazing, though, isn't it, that they can fall from such a height and still survive? And it was the most traumatic thing to watch, because it was like slow motion of this chick somersaulting to the ground and then kind of landing and bouncing. And I know there are certain species of geese and ducks across the world where they nest on cliffs and things like that, and these poor little chicks have to do the same thing. But it just always amazes me and shocks me when you watch it. You kind of think this tiny little thing should be so fragile, it shouldn't be able to survive a fall like that. But given the feather structure, they're able to, and the soft kind of grass underneath, I suppose that also helps, rather than having rocks or something like that. They're able to deal with it and cope with it and survive, which is amazing. Are there 3 chicks there? Yeah, there are 3. So all 3 are there together, which is good. Which one it is, obviously, is impossible to tell. Elizabeth, exactly. A good story. A little happy bouncy chick that was able to kind of fall and then bounce up and carry on. And I'm glad that the adult came to fetch it, because it was super weird. It fell out, and the adult that was sitting on the eggs, which I presume was the mother, did not even bat an eyelid. It did not move. It left it there. And I was worried because that afternoon when it fell out, we had Tandi's cub literally about 150 meters from that tree. And I was worried that if that cub saw that little chick rummaging around underneath, because this chick was trying to haplessly move itself and call for its mom, that it would have come and eaten it. But it seems as though it's managed to survive. Maybe it hasn't. Maybe this is 3 others that were up in the nest. I don't know. But either way, we're going to claim that one of those is a survivor that fell from the nest that we saw and survived Tandi's cub being around as well. Sure. Beautiful sight, though, this morning. Like I say, between them, the kind of reflections of the water, and then we've got these sort of moody skies that have come in with a little bit of clouds, and then the lines kind of all around. It's a pretty perfect sort of picture of Africa, that's for sure. It's about as good as one could ask for. All right, so we're going to probably carry on, unfortunately, because there's a number of cars that want to come here, and we're not going to be able to stay with them for much longer. We'll try and quickly take a turn, see if we can maybe pick up Thandi on the way. But in the meantime, let's send you back across to Tessa at And Beyond Ngala.
Sounds like such a beautiful sighting to have with the lions on top of a rock. I'd love to see them this morning. Very, very lucky with Tristan. So we are driving along the southern bank of the Timbavati River now. And we're looking for any signs of those wild dogs. I think they have gone to sleep somewhere and we haven't managed to find them. But that's okay. I've still got that lucky feeling. We've actually had quite an entertaining morning this morning, I think. So we're actually coming up to one of my favorite stretches of this road, where there's a beautiful big open clearing. And I'll never forget coming up to this clearing and seeing this odd shape at the top of a tree that caught my attention. And it was actually the Makoti male in a vulture's nest right at the top of the tree, and we could just see the top of his head. And he was lying in the nest after eating one of the baby vultures. It was crazy. The perfect temperature to be out and about at the moment. So I am going to keep going. I'm going to stop here in this clearing a little bit and just listen for those wild dogs. And I'm going to send you over to Dev with a saddle-billed stork.
Welcome back to Punda, everyone. We've gotten to this watering hole and we found a yellow-bill stork that is hunting in the background there, just along the far edge of this little water system. Very special to see. They've got that brilliant red bill, which is quite characteristic, mostly white feathers, and then the little black tips to the wings. Quite yellowy, pinky red legs as well, and then the top of the head around the eyes got that white and red strip there. So quite common to see them when they're trying to feed, walking through the water with their bill open like that. So you can see they just walk through the shallows, their bill's in the water again. Beautiful reflection of the stork actually coming off the water as well. And they are looking for small fish, little crustaceans in the mud. But there are lots of little fish in this watering hole that I think this yellow-billed stork is trying to catch. You'll watch it'll swing its head from side to side, feeling for little fish, using its legs there slowly, maybe just to try direct fish in there. That right leg's going out, and oh, swing and a miss, I think. Oh, that's very interesting. If you see the stork's right leg, it goes out at an angle. Megan, there are quite a few that we see here quite regularly. So we see the yellow-billed stork, we see woolly-necked storks quite often as well. I've also seen a marabou stork here once or twice. Twice, I think, only, so that's not a very common one. I think someone was with the saddle-billed stork earlier. We saw one of those the other day. But birds are hard to say how many exactly you get. They move between different areas, and I mean they fly, so they've got quite an extensive range for the most part, especially these bigger storks who will move around with seasonal rains and as abundance of food changes in different parts of the country.
Going on to the weavers.
So the yellow-billed storks just moved out of frame there, so we shifted across to the weavers. So beautiful to watch them building their nests there. And I'm not sure if you can see that above the big cluster of nests there is another nest made out of quite large sticks. So in the later winter time, so that's around June, July, white-breasted cormorants come and build their nests in these trees. So they are quite nice and protected. The trees have their bases in the water, so for lots of predators it's harder to get to these nests. And these little weavers have now piggybacked on the work what cormorants have done, and they've built their nests underneath the white-breasted cormorant's nest. From what I can see, these are lesser masked weavers, but it is possible that there's more than one species here at the moment. They are very busy building their nests, so you can see them flying off. The males will be picking up strands of grass from the banks of the watering hole here, picking them, and then coming and building the nests. There's a couple of the nests are a little bit older. They've got quite dry grass, you can see, but there are, I can see 2 or 3 little clusters of green construction that is happening there. So the green grass is obviously the fresh grass. It's just been picked recently and is being made by a male. There's a male who's just flown into that little green one on the left, who is trying to build a nest that'll be suitable for a female. And if the female decides that the nest that he's built is good enough and strong enough, then she'll decide that he's suitable to mate with, and they'll mate and lay a clutch of eggs. Lesser masked weaver's got a bit of a yellow eye, quite tricky to see from at the back, with a little bit of a yellow eye, and that quite distinctive black face masks that a couple of the weavers wear. Also making quite a bit of noise. You can see there's 2 couples chasing each other around there. Maybe some males trying to push another male off. Oh, there we go. I don't know. Did you get that, Glenn?
What happened? That dropped down?
Yeah, dropped into the water. There's a little mating that just happened now. I think it might have happened off screen. 2 birds fell from the side of the nest, and they fell down into the water very quickly and then flew back up again. Those are individuals that are busy mating as we speak. Big J, these weavers don't migrate. They'll spend the year here. And we've got a couple of weaver species on Phinda, and they all spend the winter and summer months here. They nest most of the year, much more active at the moment though. So no, they are not migratory birds. But an interesting question, because a lot of the birds do migrate. The yellow-billed storks we also see here for a large part of the year. But we've got lots of bird species that do migrate. I actually saw a little Klaas's cuckoo land on the bush just next to us here while we're chatting about the weavers. And the cuckoos are one of the birds that migrate. And we've got a lot of yellow-billed kites that have been flying around us this morning as well. And they are also migratory birds. They fly up to Kenya and spend our winter time in Kenya. And then when summertime comes back and the rains return to Phinda, the yellow-billed kites return as well. There's a lot more insect abundance during this time now when it's nice and wet. A lot of flying ants about, and the birds will travel all the way across the world sometimes to come and feed on the insect abundance. I think what we are going to do probably from here is we're going to do a nice big loop around. There's another watering hole not too far off from where we are. I'm actually just going to move a little bit forward here. I think there's a crocodile in the watering hole just behind a bush. You can see I saw its head pop up a second ago, and there's lots of bubbles, so they may be hunting some of the fish like the storks would be doing. Now we're in a position to see that crocodile if it sticks its head back up again.
Where is it, about mid-water there?
Yeah, somewhere in the middle. And there are a number of other birds walking around here as well. So blacksmith lapwing on the far side. We saw some hardy-dar ibis not too long ago for the viewers in South Africa. That's a bird I'm sure most of you should be familiar with. They are quite abundant. And that yellow-billed stork's now moved across to the left-hand side. He's carrying on to feed down there. Sarah, crocodiles are notorious for going long periods without food. They're quite famous for it, actually, and I remember the first time I found out about that, or the first time I was asked that question, went and did a bit of research and was absolutely blown away. So they're reptiles and they are cold-blooded, which means they can slow their metabolism right down, and it kind of reckoned that they can go around 3 or 4 years without eating anything, which is absolutely mind-blowing to think that an animal can go that long. But because they're cold-blooded, like I said, their metabolism and their body functions are quite different from ours. Obviously, mammals and warm-blooded creatures need to feed a lot more often than that. The crocodiles on Phinda, though, I think at any given point in time, feed quite regularly. We often come to these watering holes like this, and it'll be dead still and dead quiet, not a crocodile in sight, and suddenly a crocodile will jump up and you'll see its face break the water, jaws open, and it's caught a fish. So they do eat fish, and lots of them. And also opportunistic, so when other animals come down to drink, they sometimes wait around the edges of the watering holes, very strategically placed, and they will hunt up to very large animals. There was a waterbuck here that was caught by a crocodile in this very waterhole maybe 6 months ago. So they take prey as big as waterbuck, wildebeest as well. And on colder mornings like this morning, though, maybe slightly less active. Reptiles do need to spend a lot of time in the sun, kind of charges their batteries up and warms them up a little bit. And yeah, so this yellow-billed stork now is just going to carry on feeding, I think, for the rest of the day, most likely. It'll make its way around this watering hole in the shallow sections with its beak open like it's been doing, trying to catch small fish. And we're going to move across now to Tessa, who has got a wildebeest for you.
So I've been driving through a few of the clearings here at and beyond Ngala, and I found these 2 wildebeest that seem to be without a herd, which is quite unusual. And it looks like it's a male on the left and a female on the right. And you can see that from the size difference. The male is a lot bigger and more heavy set. And he's looking quite beautiful. You can see his stripes incredibly well this morning. And what's interesting about those stripes, they're kind of part of his camouflage, but it's actually not a different color on his coat. It's actually longer patches of hair that are growing over each other in almost like a net or a web that makes those stripes. So he's looking in very good condition. And I actually wouldn't be surprised if the rest of this implausibility is around somewhere. So I don't know if you all knew, but the name for a group of wildebeest together is an implausibility, which is quite unusual. So he's actually enjoying all of the fresh grasses and herbs that are growing down here at the moment. One of my favorite things about a wildebeest is actually that long tail. And he's actually got some sand on him. He's definitely had a mud bath at some point recently. So I'm actually going to have to turn a little bit. Maybe you'll see him crossing the road. So they're actually quite strange looking. You can see how small his eyes are compared to the rest of his face. They don't rely on eyesight as much as they would rely on their hearing and sense of smell. Oh, the other one's actually a younger male. It's not a female. So they must be part of a bachelor herd. And he has got a lot of mud on his face. Elay, this is a blue wildebeest species. You get a black wildebeest as well, but the black wildebeest is found more in arid areas like the Eastern Cape. So here, this is the blue wildebeest, and they are quite strange looking. To tell the difference between the two is actually quite easy. You have a look at the tail structure and the horns. So they actually only get that blue color closer to the evening when the light is fading. But if you have a look at their tails, they've got that black ribbon on the outside of the tail, and it goes down to that satiny hair. A black wildebeest will actually have a white fluffy tail. And if you have a look at the horns of these two, you'll see they go outwards from the head to the sides and then up. A black wildebeest will have horns that come forwards and then up. So they're actually facing forwards and protrude outwards from the front of the head. He's so covered in mud. So these two are definitely enjoying their grazing. morning. And I think they're probably going to try and find an area that has maybe some impala or some wildebeest herds, maybe some females, and even some zebras maybe. It's amazing to see when they're standing behind a tree like that, how well they blend in. It shows you how well that camouflage works. And it's only when they're moving that you really notice the shape. So I'm going to keep going along this clearing, see what else we can find. Maybe we find some zebras with their foals. I'm going to send you over to Taylor in Pridelands.
Well, it's been a bit of a quiet morning out here in the bush at Pridelands, but finally we found a creature that is willing to stick around, and that is a blacksmith lapwing. Hello everybody, my name is Taylor McCurdy, and on camera with me today is Sebastian Rombi, and like I said, we're here at Pridelands Conservancy, which is part of Boluli Game Reserve and the Greater Kruger. Now, I don't know why it's been so quiet this morning. I can't a nice day, but anyway, park ourselves at Ndlovu Dam, and hopefully as the day warms up, the elephants and buffalo and all sorts of other things will come on down. Now, look at all those insects moving around on the surface of the water. There's lots of flies and things like that, and that's pretty much what this bird likes to eat, is insects, except it's not really going for the flying creatures. So what it will do is, you'll see it will walk to sort of the muddier areas, and it will probe its bill just about a centimetre or two into the mud, hoping to get any little invertebrates that are living there. I think those flying creatures are going to be too quick. We'll be looking for anything else. Now, they normally are in pairs, so I'm sure the other lapwing is around somewhere. But it is really nice when you just sit at a watering hole for 20 or 30 minutes. Everything starts relaxing around you as if you were not even there. So this lapwing walked right up to the car. Maya, now, unfortunately, blacksmith lapwings cannot swim. They've got very, very long legs, though, so they can walk into the water, but that's not really what they do. Although we've seen such strange things happening, like with herons, especially the grey heron that lives at Ndlovu Dam, going out and swimming. So, no, they don't swim particularly well. But they do like to bath in the water quite a bit, so you will see them splashing about on a nice hot day to keep themselves cool. Whoop, sinking into the mud, there we go. Long legs are working very well. Ideally, though, not a good place for that bird. As you can see, it doesn't quite enjoy walking through that very, very deep mud. It prefers the other stuff. I'd like to see what it's actually pulling out of the muddy water. I don't know if it's like little aquatic beetles or worms. I would imagine that's what's living inside the mud. But it's quite hard to tell. And like I say, it'd be good if it did it now, because we've got such a close view that we'd actually be able to tell. But there's lots and lots of different creatures living around here. Some in the mud, in the water, of course, on the surface, as you've seen the flies and dragonflies and things buzzing about. And even in all the mud that has dried and cracked, you'll get lizards and all sorts of other creatures living in there too. Leah, potentially, I mean, we saw that bird sink down into the mud now, so maybe they could get stuck. I think, though, because they have got wings as well, I reckon that if it did, or if it were to sink to that point, I think they would react quite quickly and flap their wings to sort of help propel themselves out of the mud. But they're very light, very, very light sort of birds. So it's not, if they do walk, I don't think that they would it would be easy for them to get stuck in the mud. So I don't think it's a very common thing. But it is nice to have those long legs so that you can move into other areas. You can see it is quite dirty. Spending quite a bit of time around here. It's such a nice sighting of them, though. I've been enjoying all the bird life, especially all the migrants, although this bird is not a migrant. This bird lives here all the time. It is resident. And I don't know if they made a nest yet. because they were quite protective. But where Sebastian and I parked just behind us, they were spending a bit of time there, just away from the water's edge. You wouldn't want to make your nest right on the water's edge at this particular dam, as you've seen all the animal traffic that comes on past. But I don't think that the chicks or the eggs even made it. Now they're not spending any time at all behind the vehicle, and sort of not quite long grass, short grass with quite a bit of vegetation around it, which is a bit sad. I don't think any of the birds, or the ground-dwelling birds that have chicks or ducklings or goslings around at Ilva Dam, will have a good chance of survival. So we've proven it with the blacksmith lapwings, this pair, and then also with the Egyptian geese. Unfortunately, all those goslings, they only lasted a few days, which was quite sad. Here we go, that's a bit of better surface to walk on. Looking very intently for its next meal. Wow, right. Well, we're going to just sit here for a little bit longer before we move on. And see what else we can find. But off you go to Trish, who's having a very exciting morning with wild dogs and a leopard.
I don't even see all of you, X. Right, so unfortunately, seems like Trish is in a bit of a difficult area, and so you are with us. As you can see, we're just checking around, looking for any sign of Tundi is probably what we're looking for, but she's gone into Torchwood, and because we're out of Torchwood now to make space for others, I'm just kind of checking, hoping that she maybe came back into Juma at some point because the lions were there. But like I said, there's so many alarm calls kind of south of where those lions were around that drainage that I'm pretty sure her and the cub are there somewhere. We just didn't get enough time to go and kind of scratch around, but that's okay. We're going to come back into Juma now and see if we can find something. But it sounds like Trisha's got signal again and lots of things happening up in the north, so let's send you back across to her.
Absolute epicness. Epicness. Just watch, guys. That's Ansele in the tree and the wild dogs underneath. She's been growling at them. They've been actually like jumping up and trying to get to her. It's insane. It's very possible that they've stolen this kill from them. It was an impala. That they have stolen it from her, rather, because there's no reason for her to be up in this tree if they weren't. If they had just killed the animal themselves. How amazing is this? You can hear the wild dogs in the background and the leopard in this gorgeous weeping wattle, this African wattle. Oh. Gigi, you'd like to know if leopards are afraid of wild dogs? All predators do not want to get injured. They don't want to put themselves in a position where they can be injured. Now, she could jump down and run, But it would be risky because the wild dogs, remember, it's not just one wild dog, it's multiple. So that means that she could get hurt and she's not willing to take that risk. It's not really a matter of who's scared of who, but whether the risk is worth it. The wild dogs are definitely not scared of her, and she's busy growling at them. Amazing. Her behavior is just watching this interaction. This is my favorite type of sighting. You see multiple animals that we would have different sightings with together and interacting with each other. You can watch animal behavior. So special. Going back to that question about who's scared of who, remember with the hyena last night, so too? She's not scared of the wild dogs. The wild dog's not scared of her, but she's still going to run away when they come chasing. They're still going to chase her. But she doesn't want to get hurt. She's not running away because she's scared of them. She doesn't want to get hurt. If she was scared of them, she wouldn't approach them in the first place. Thank you, James Richards. This is the same pack from yesterday that we spent that time with. Sans pack. This has just made my day. She's obviously been chased because an African wattle is not the tree of choice for a leopard. And she's sitting awkwardly. So maybe she just made the kill and the dogs arrived. Who knows? Nobody is here when it happened. Leopard lover, you're wondering if the dogs will stay here until they see a new meal? They might, but it's a bit overcast at the moment. So once the sun comes out, they're going to look for better shade. This is not great shade. They're only here because they've just eaten here. And it looks like the puppies are still eating because I can hear them. This is such an amazing sighting. One of the adults have just returned to the puppies and looking very bloodied. Regurgitating again, probably. They're behind a bush, so we can't really see them. Unbelievable. Just... It's a shame I have to keep my voice down, otherwise I would be very, very, very excited. But then also, I need to keep my voice down. I don't want to startle anybody. This is the first time I've seen a leopard and wild dogs so close to each other. And the wild dog's so interested in the leopard, actually jumping up towards the tree as she's growling down at them. I wonder what she's thinking right now. What have I gotten into? I should have just ran away instead of following my instincts to go up a tree. It's Now she has to watch them eat her meal, possibly. It's much less likely that the wild dogs made a kill and then she came running, because they eat so quickly. Almost never anything left for the scavengers. Jeppy, you'd like to know if there's ever been a case where wild dogs have killed a leopard? I don't know. I really don't know. It's not something I think I've thought about before. There's been cases of lions killing leopards, hyenas killing leopards, but I'm not sure about wild dogs. Wild dogs have such strength and this air of confidence that you don't see, I think, in other predators. Maybe in lions. But they're almost fearless. Despite their size, they're smaller than hyenas, leopards, but they just have this confidence. We're here, we're together, and we're strong in our pack. No, we're not moving for anybody. Just amazing. One thing you'll notice out here is that when there's no need to hurt or kill each other, generally animals want to avoid each other unless, they're a meal, in which case they're being pursued by the predator. But here we have two predators and they just want to avoid each other and they can still coexist in this moment. She's now calmed down. She just kind of found a comfortable spot and she's like, okay, well, I'm going to sit this out. The wild dogs, the same thing. They're not antagonizing each other. It's brilliant. She's swaying slightly in the tree. Listen to these sounds. Red-crested quorn. Cape turtle dove. The sighting has got it all. I'm still amazed. I'm just amazed at the beauty of this. There's so much to be learned, so much to be seen. Well, the last time we saw Nseli, I thought she looked so pregnant and round, but obviously she had just been eating a lot. She had those 2 kills in the tree, both a lamb and an impala ewe, because now she does not have that same overly round, almost cartoon-like figure. Just stunning, stunning, stunning. I'm so glad that we managed to get you into Buffelshoek and see this amazing sighting.
We've just come across this beautiful scene here as well of these giraffe. A journey of them. They have been slowly moving through the landscape here. Some very moody, beautiful clouds in the background, and some beautiful bush with the red soil we were chatting about earlier. So we're just going to take a minute or 2 here to enjoy the sights and sounds of the bush at Punda. Really magical scene here with these beautiful giraffe, beautiful patternings that they've got on their fur. It was really nice. It's always such a treat just sitting and listening and keeping an ear out for anything interesting that might be happening. We're going to leave these guys now and head back towards a watering hole.
Still here, of course. Like I said, everything is just a little bit quieter and everyone's settled. She's actually falling asleep up there. In a very awkward position, but she's managing to do it. Everyone is very aware of each other, but they're still happy to go about their business. Remember, a leopard can never take on a whole pack of wild dogs. And if they wanted to take her on, they risk some of their members getting injured badly. So everyone's just kind of taking a time out. Some of the puppies are now moving out into the open so we can get a glance at them. I wonder what they must think of this whole thing. Oh, so much happening everywhere. And Celia's now lifted her head up. Wow. Tyler, you'd like to know how long the standoff would last? I mean, it could end right now if the dogs all move away. She'll climb down, go about her business. Just depends on when there's sufficient distance between both of them to be able to move away safely. The wild dogs will still chase her if she jumps down now. And like I said, it's unlikely that they'll stick around here the whole day. The sun is going to be visible in a bit, and this is not going to be a shady enough area. It's going to be a very hot area, and the wild dogs are not going to stick around. They'll need to do what's beneficial. They're not going to just hang around because they want to have a go at the leopard. I can already see one dog walking off in the distance. So it's likely that this might end quite soon. Kelly, you say you're so nervous? Please don't be. I'm sure this is not the first time Celia has come up against wild dogs. Nor is it the first time wild dogs have seen a leopard. Not even in her lifetime, but lifetimes and hundreds of years and thousands of years of leopards have been confronted with wild dogs and vice versa. So the wild dogs are moving further away now and she's readjusting. See, it's such a difficult tree. It's not very strong, especially where she is. And that's as far as up as she'd be able to get. Some of the adults have moved away. There's a couple still there, but now she's just got about 2 adults and the puppies. And she's got sight of, or immediately, kind of below the tree. So she's basically gonna hop off as soon as she gets a gap. Look at her, she's just waiting. Wild dogs are just totally uninterested in her, but they're both so aware of each other. Looking, and there's still an adult underneath the tree. Okay, they're slowly moving away. Oh, this is so interesting. It really is nail biting stuff. What's she gonna do? What are they gonna do when she decides to make a move? It could be chaos. I would also like to comment that the yellow flowers of the African wattle complement her very well. One paw moving down. Rosh, her tail looks unusually long from that angle. That's because her tail is closest to us, so it appears bigger. And secondly, her head is above her bottom, so it does look quite long. It's actually an interesting perspective, Rosh, because we don't often get to see them like this. And for so long, and the longer you stare at it, the longer the tail becomes. Dogs are moving further north. I see some adults way north of us here, just in the distance. I think she's hoping that they just go already. Oh, and those adults from the north are coming back down here. So she might have to settle in for a little longer. She looks like she's so undecided. Look at her movement, so careful. As she navigates that little fork in the tree that she's managed to keep for herself. A place of safety for now. She's just watching them. It looks like they've just brought something else back. For the pups. I can't see too clearly. Oh. Dogs are starting to move. Dogs are starting to move. Come on in, Sene. This is your chance. Or almost your chance. I'm just putting my binoculars out to have a better look underneath the tree, where I have a gap to see the dogs. Alright, now they're starting to move a little bit west. This is quite tense, isn't it? Gosh, I love it. I just love it. I have no idea what can happen. I've not seen this before. Oh, this... Elvis, you say she looks tired now from holding on to those thin branches. I think she's impatient now. She's feeling it, but of course she is incredibly patient to be able to have sat here and watched it and waited for the right time. But it seems like it's waning just a little bit. She has to be in these awful positions. It's not a tree she would have chosen. So yes, indeed, I think she is tired of being up there. Ooh. A bit of a branch snap there. Come on, girl. You can do it. Let's everybody get out of the situation safely. Kendra, you'd like to know if she can outrun these wild dogs? No, she won't be able to. The top speed of the wild dogs we saw, or we spoke about yesterday, was about 71 kilometers per hour. but they're more averaging about 65. She would also have, the top leopards would probably have a top speed of that too, but she's not going to be able to gather that kind of speed when she averages between 50 and 60 kilometers per hour. Maybe up to 65. But she's not going to be able to gather that speed jumping from the top of the tree, by which time the wild dogs would already be pursuing. They know she's making a move. They're going to reach that top speed far quicker than she is. But she does have the advantage, of course, darting from one tree to another. Except I don't see another tree around that she can climb. There's lots of flimsy combretums and silver cluster leaves. And that is about it. Yeah, she settled down again. Ugh, this is not going to be the time for me to move. I thought it was going to be the time for me to move, but these wild dogs have sat down again. And she'll have to just take it easy too. I would love to see her kind of try and sneak away and see if they'd notice. Some sneezing going on between the puppies. They must really like the spot. Again, I can see the adults far north of us. Gorgeous, gorgeous. I'm going to stay here and watch my leopard in the wattle tree and our wild dogs beneath her. And I'm going to send you over to Tristan with his lions on Pride Rock.
Well, what an epic sighting Trisha's had. We're back with the lions at the moment. We managed to kind of fall back into the rotation and decided to come back and see what they're up to. As you can see, not much has changed. Lions are still doing liony things, which is lying down and, well, watching the world go by. Interestingly enough, though, with Trisha, I was obviously got a few updates about what happened, and it's always in fascinating encounters when you have leopard and wild dogs together. They can go either way. There's been a number of cases where obviously leopards have taken on wild dogs. It does happen quite regularly, particularly from a pup point of view. When the dogs are a lot younger, then you'll find that they unfortunately get taken by leopards. And then I have had seen photos of dogs getting hold of leopards and killing them as well. So it can go both ways. In the case of a leopard like in Sele, generally it doesn't happen because that's a much more experienced leopard. It hears those dogs coming and just goes straight up a tree. You often find it's young individuals that get caught by dogs, and there was a case, probably the most recent one that I can remember, where a male leopard grabbed a wild dog and he pulled it up into the tree, but it was a young male of only about 2.5 years, and he grabbed this dog, went up into the tree, killed it, and he came down to get another one, and the dogs got hold of him and killed him. So they've got to be a bit careful and it's always kind of, measure the situation. But it can go both ways with those animals, and it's a special thing to see. But I always say that if you want to find a leopard, follow a pack of wild dogs for a day, because they have this uncanny knack, particularly here where we've got a nice density of leopards, of finding them. I don't know how they do it, but they somehow manage to pick up these leopards all the time and then chase them up into the trees, and the leopards look completely sort of disheveled by the fact that they've now had to climb the tree, and then they watch the chaos that goes underneath. Anyway, as you can see, the lions are sleeping and got a few tummies being exposed, and they've all found themselves, well, those that are clever have found themselves what little shade there is close to the rocks. You can see it's not a very big tree, but there is a slight shade underneath that. And that's because it's starting to get warm now. So you're starting to find that those rocks are probably heating up a little bit too much, and it's getting too hot for them. And so they come into these little open sort of places underneath these trees for some nice shade. The tree on the left is my favorite one because there's about 5 of them that are shoved in underneath a very, very small section of tree, and there's one that's just kind of owning it with its legs sort of opened and lying very unladylike at this stage. So I don't think we'll see these guys moving too much at all today. I think you'll find that this evening they'll still be in the same place, but this evening should be quite interesting because there's always a lot of animals that come down here to drink, and so who knows what the evening will present. But we'll sit here with them now in case anything does happen. Hopefully they'll get up and do something at some point.
Welcome to my car. This is Wendy, and she's my favorite. She would love to have your name attached to her, so you can be with her every single time she goes on a safari here in Djuma. If you become a Wild Earth Explorer, you will have the opportunity to buy an engraved tag, which we will attach to her. We will make sure to send you a digital picture to show you exactly where you are sitting on her. You will have front row seat in every single sighting.
Goodness, look at its wobbly legs. Oh, I don't believe it. I can't believe we've actually seen it. Oh my goodness. Oh, careful, careful, careful. Oh no. Oh, it's okay, little one. Okay.
Expect the unexpected here on Wild Earth daily.
Hello everyone, I am Yapi and I am a safari guide at and Beyond Ngala. My favorite animal is the lion because 99% of the time it doesn't do anything. And the 1% of the time it does, it's just awesome.
Catch up with the guides daily here on Wild Earth. Have you been watching Wild Earth and dreamt of being right there on safari with one of the guides? Well, now you can. Wild Earth is offering you a chance to buy a ticket to dream. You or a friend can hop on board a live Wild Earth show and join our guide on safari. The ticket is redeemable at any of our locations, anytime in the future. Only a limited number of tickets are available, so don't wait. Get your ticket now and start dreaming. Terms and conditions apply.
Well, finally, the animals have arrived. No, sorry about that. What I was saying was that finally the animals have arrived back in Lorville Dam. Sometimes it takes them a bit longer than usual. We've got 2 rather large elephants coating themselves in some mud. And then, of course, you had a brief view of the hippopotamus, who's still here. I'm very happy that Mr. Hippopotamus has not gone anywhere. We had a big panic this morning. Perfect timing, Hippo. Thank you. Smile for the camera, please. He's not very impressed with the elephants behind him, as you can imagine. He's already thrown a big tantrum and jolted off after one of the elephants there entered the water. Anyways, so he wasn't playing rock today. But this is such a special scene. Do you know what I've also done? Is that I've completely forgotten what Kumo looks like. Kumo the elephant, because he lost his collar. I don't think I've seen him for a while. But he had an injury on his trunk, sort of between his tusks, and then on his left backside he had what looked like some kind of an abscess type vibe. But I haven't seen him for ages. I know Mike was him every night. I need to now find a picture of Kumo so that I can re-identify him. It was obviously much easier when he had his collar on. Hello, big boy. But the elephant on the left is an enormous fella. He snuck up behind us. And then obviously as soon as I said, hello, elephant, he went, oh, I've been spotted. And he couldn't come in and do what elephant bulls like to do and intimidate us. So he went all the way around. And now he's over there having a grand old time. It's so nice to see, though. Two big ellies playing around in the mud. Not much need for sunscreen. Well, I suppose you still get burnt, and if as soon as these clouds burn away, which it looks like they are, you can see it's sort of quite white and hazy at the moment. But the clouds are thinning out. I think it will be quite hot. I don't know, Sebastian, did you check the temperature today?
I think it was up to like 33.
33 degrees Celsius? That's not too bad. That's actually quite nice. As you can see, very, very high clouds. Oops, sorry. But they should disappear soon. I really do hope that this hippo stays here for a bit longer. I'm enjoying his company. I can't wait to see him with the buffalo. Now there's a very brave Egyptian goose that is marching in front of the elephants. What are you going to do? Riley, now yes, the elephants will most certainly still go into the water with the hippo there. Hippo is not going to be very happy about it. However, he'll just have to move out of their way because size does matter in the bush. And of course, elephants are the biggest. And one hippo versus even just one elephant is not going to go down particularly well. So it's not going to stop them. I think that will eventually encourage the hippopotamus to move off. Because when he gets a hot day and he sees how much traffic is here, he's just going to go, no, this is ridiculous. I can't have this. It's basically like going to any of the coastal holiday towns in South Africa, like over December. It's so busy and so packed, and you can't even get bread in the shop sometimes. So I think this hippo will eventually move off. He's had 2 very cool days because yesterday wasn't particularly cloud cover, and then the same thing today. Well, for now, I think it will clear in a few hours, but there are some really, really hot days on their way.
So the dogs are walking all underneath her now, and the adults have been trying to actually like jump up. Very, very interesting stuff here. She hasn't growled or reacted. But she's watching them very carefully. Look at that. I've gone back to what's left of their carcass. She's definitely eyeing out the adults to come. She's not caring too much about it. The hyena with us was Sutu, yet again. Those puppies look amazing. So puppy-like. And they just look like they're having fun. Looking up at her. They're not jumping up though like the adults are. Towards Nsele. They're pulling and chewing in the background. You might be able to hear. Here comes another adult. Let's see if he's going to harass her. Jolly Whiskey, exactly. You said they're so intent on harassing her. They are. That's why I said to you, they have this type of confidence that can be found in, like a big, close-knit family. Nobody can come at me. I've got backup for days. That's kind of the way that they carry themselves. What an amazing sighting. Would have never thought that there was a leopard in the tree. In fact, when they discovered there was a leopard in the tree, I was on my way to the wild dog sighting. Can you imagine that moment, just looking up and saying, oh my goodness, there's a leopard in that tree. I'm quite sure certain viewers like James Richard must be losing it, having some of his favorites, leopard and wild dog, in one scene. Much like me. This is incredible. I'm just waiting for that moment of movement. Mrs. Zero, you say that can't be comfortable? Certainly not. I mean, she's broken 2 little small branches while she's been here, while we've been here. And that would be also sharp. No, it can't be comfortable at all. I think she's making her best, the best out of a bad position in a less than ideal tree. And she almost looked like she was nodding off for a moment or two some time ago. But now that the wild dogs came back to harass her, she's watching them very intently. It's such a feast for the eyes because the wild dogs are constantly moving. And so that moment of when they move away or move towards her, it can happen at any time. And they move with such speed and agility. And they could be gone out of here. They could be gone 500 meters away so quickly. And then we're going to have all this action. So I'm just sitting here at the edge of my seat, much like you guys are. Amazing. Well, I hope she'll come down and we'll get to see the outcome of this whole interaction by the time the show closes. And I'm going to sit here until then. But I'm going to send you over to Tessa. She's got a lone elephant pool.
Oh my goodness, that sounds like quite a standoff happening there with Tswalu. We are back at and beyond Ngala now with 2 beautiful big elephant bulls that are relaxing on this nice cool morning. They're actually slowly making their way down towards a watering hole, so I'm really hoping that we get to see them splashing themselves this morning. But you can actually see this one closest to us is quite dirty. He's got some darker patches, some very light patches. He's even got a leaf stuck on his back. And that's because he's been dust bathing in the road. So he's been picking up dust. He kicks it to get it loose off the floor, picks it up with his trunk and squirts it all over himself, and then he just covers himself in this dust storm. So he looks a bit patchy this morning. He's got an incredibly long tail as well. So both of these males, I would think, are fairly old. I'd say between 35 and 45 years old. They've both got very thick, large tusks, huge in body size. Oh, he's cleaning his ear. And he's going straight down that predominant game path that actually veers off the road. And that's the game path that leads directly to the waterhole. So I'm going to move you a little bit forward. They've been doing this for quite a while now, walking a little bit and then stopping in the middle of the road, and then walking again and stopping in the middle of the road. It's almost like they're thinking before they go down to the waterhole. Actually, it's one of the things that I really enjoy about elephants in particular. When they're walking downhill, they tend to walk incredibly fast, almost like they're clumsy. There you can see him walking down the road at speed, and how his head moves as he's walking. So he's actually only got one tusk, that one that you can see on the right. His left tusk is completely broken off, and that probably would have been from a fight with another male elephant. So that will never grow back. It must have been quite painful.
I don't know what's happening. Sorry about that, guys. You've lost that lovely sighting in Gala, but I'm sure we'll get them back. We're still sitting here with Sally and these wild dogs. They seem to actually be... every time I say they seem to be moving off, they're not moving off. They just kind of go round and round and round. They've been having us a few good meals behind her there. Tyron, you'd like to know if the leopard will eventually get tired, physically tired? No, there's nothing that's exerting her there. She might be feeling a little bit stressed, but she's a leopard and she knows how to get comfortable in the tree, even though to us it may look very uncomfortable, but she's not exerting energy being up there. So she's not going to get physically tired. She may get impatient and tired of waiting, but if she feels that she's not in a great position and it's taking too much energy from her to maintain this position, she'll probably move on to the branch that's on the left, which is also a bit sturdy and a little bit easier looking in terms of lying down. And the dogs wouldn't be able to get her. So I don't think she will get tired, physically tired, that is. I feel there's such a strange feeling of togetherness. We're all waiting for this moment to see what's going to happen all around the world. She's going to have to find herself another meal. Starting to warm up now. The sun's peeking out. I think it's only a matter of time now. I had to give it another maybe hour before the wild dogs 100% would be gone from this area. way too much sun. And if the sun persists to come out at the rate it is right now, although there's still clouds I can see all around it, they'd be gone. So we can hope that we will see this conclude by the end of drive, but this may not happen. But I'm certainly hoping so too. This is going to be delightful. We are going to have the sighting all to ourselves in a bit, which means we'll be able to move around and get a better view. Okay, let us try, or we'll try to move in a moment. It's just that it's quite a bushy area, so I don't want you to lose the connection with me while I try to move. So let me do that and get us a nice view of everything that's going on, and I'll let you know when I have.
See, our lines are slowly but surely departing from the rock. It's all of a sudden got seriously warm and humid. You can actually hear the foam-nest tree frogs have just started to kind of call in a crescendo all around us, which is often an indication that the humidity level is increasing and that rain is on its way. But the problem with that is it's making these lions hot, and so they're all getting up, departing the rock, and one by one trying to find some sort of shade. These big full tummies that they've got combined with the heat is making it uncomfortable on those rocks. You can imagine the rocks are now starting to get hot as well. There's the one lioness that's standing up. She's the one that didn't get much in the way of food. I think she's the one that's been mating with the Avoca male, because there was one that was on Chitwestra for a while, and she definitely is the thinnest of the entire pride. I don't know when Trish saw them last if she was with them, but I don't think so, because I think when Trish saw them they were still somewhere around Chitwa area. But that sun's about to come out, and as soon as the sun comes out these guys are going to be up and moving, that's for sure. As you can see, drinking again just from one of the little natural puddles that's on the rocks at the moment after the rain. So it's find that they like to drink from those. It's cleanish water. The risk of crocodiles is almost zero. Well, it is zero. So they don't have to worry about that, which is a good thing. And that's why they kind of like to drink off the rocks itself, even though there's a big dam behind them. Just the most beautiful scene that we've got this morning. It's been magical, really, spending time with them, that's for sure. All right, I think they're probably going to fly up for the rest of the day, so we're probably going to meander on, but what a wonderful sighting it's been.
Moved so that we can see her and to see these guys. Now, if you are sensitive, we can see the carcass now, and it's an impala male. So if you're sensitive, you might want to just look away. It looks a little bit gruesome. Thank you, doggies, for revealing it to us. Oh, it's really, really cleaned out. These two are the only two that are still around. The others have moved. So this would be her chance once these two are done to drop down. Alright. Only one left. Look at that beautiful face. And the flower covering her injured eye. Perfect. Absolutely perfect. She's watching that one dog go. There's one left. There's very little accessible meat on that carcass now. It's basically ribs, vertebrae, and skull and horns. Which means that Sutu, wherever she is, will have a good meal in a bit. I think we might be lucky to see the conclusion of this before show ends. Off it goes. Make your move, girl. What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? There are now no dogs around us. Everyone has moved sufficiently away and into the thickets that I can't see one. Oh, you marvelous creature. Oh, you go, girl. Oh. Couldn't be happier to share this moment with you all. So gorgeous. Oh, look at the stunner. Look at her. Hello, gorgeous. Well done. You've made it out unscathed. Help yourself. She's a better treat this time, my girl. Oh, and she's off. Oh, she's run. That was awesome. Now, I'm gonna have to move, so let's hope that our signal doesn't have an issue. Ooh. Just saw something else run after her. There's... Marcel, can we see the hyena just in the background there? Oh, so...
We're driving back towards the riverbed at the moment, and we have been looking for the wild dogs. We've seen some lovely elephants this morning. We have seen a glimpse of those hyenas. We could hear the wild dogs but couldn't actually see them. And now we are just heading back slowly towards the main area where there might be some cats. And just appreciating all the smells and the sounds this morning. We we have had an absolutely amazing morning. I can't believe the sighting that you've had with Tswalu, that pack of wild dogs and the leopard coming down and stealing part of the kill. That is unbelievable. It has definitely been, I think, one of my favorite things to hear. But you've also been very lucky with the hippos playing this morning and with that pride of lions up on the rock face. Definitely would have loved to have seen that. I'm hoping it stays nice and cool for our safari with you this afternoon. I think it will. Nice cloud cover. Thank you so much to everybody for joining us this morning. It was such a pleasure for all of us to guide you this morning. Please remember to join us this afternoon, channel 183 and all of our other platforms. Have a lovely day, everyone.
This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good afternoon, fine friends. We are here at the wild dog sighting. They've just moved a little bit. So my plans are for today, stay with them. I promise there are wild dogs there, everybody. They're just very, very well concealed. There you go. Exciting stuff. Well, we're already